Let's now look into how data versus story works. Let's take one case study. Data-driven pitch. Apple said Mac versus PC campaign. Remember, Mac was launched somewhere in the mid-2000s, the early 2000s. Apple wanted to persuade computer buyers that Macs were superior to the normal PCs in performance, security, and in the ease of use. So rather than purely doing a storytelling, Apple leaned very heavily on comparative data points and very logical arguments, which was wrapped with a minimal story. So let's look at the campaign overview. What was the title of that campaign? It said, Get a Mac. And it happened between the year 2006 and 2009. Where was it telecast? It was telecast globally. What was the format? It was a series of ads, 66 TV ads in total. What was the concept? There were two characters. One was casually dressed Mac person, and the other was a very formally dressed PC person. These two people personified the two different computers, one Mac, the other a normal PC. Well, now let's understand what happens. This was totally a data-driven ad. 66 ads were totally data-driven. The ads focused on measurable performance, the performance metrics, and the rational advantages that a Mac has. What were they? There were fewer crashes and lot less viruses. Mac can start up faster. It had better compatibility for design software. Much easier to use. So they said it just works. For example, in one of the ads, the PC sneezes, Hachoo. And what did it represent? It represented the virus. While Mac stays healthy, what does it dramatize? It dramatizes security of data in a very symbolic way. In another ad, there was a contrast of startup speed, turning technical specs into simple visual comparisons. The Mac would start up tough and the PC would take its own time to start up. Even though the characters added humor in the ad, the core message of these ads was built on data-backed claims by Mac. Correct? It doesn't have viruses and it starts up first. So what was the tone and the persuasion strategy? It was very simple. Logical comparisons between the two computers. Product-centric demonstrations. But the hook was humor. And the appeal was very, very rational. Mac performs better. That's all. Nothing more. Right? So what was the marketing impact? Sales grew. 39% rise in Mac sales within the first year. Market share zoomed from 4.2% to 9.5% globally during those three campaign years, 2006 to 2009. Brand perception slowly built up. It said Apple was seen as a smarter, cleaner, and simpler computer. But while the campaign succeeded, it did not evoke any deep emotional loyalty. It simply sold on why it works and not why it matters to the customer. So what should be our key takeaway from this campaign? This campaign is an example of classic data-driven persuasion, logic-based, evidence-based demonstration. It works when your product has the objective of settling that I am superior, but it risks limiting emotional connection with the buyer. Let's take a second case study. Story-driven pitch. Let's look at Nike. All of you love Nike. All of you know Nike. Dream Crazy. That was the campaign pitch. And it featured Colin Kaepernick. What was the brand context? Nike had very long, it has been using just do it. Celebrating human potential and grit. Correct? Just do it. In 2018, the brand decided to deepen, make it more stronger storytelling by associating it with courage, conviction, and social justice. Now that's implying the society at large. What was the campaign called? The campaign title became Dream Crazy. The year was 2018. And where was it released? Mostly US based, mostly. Who was the narrator? Colin Kaepernick. Remember, he is an NFL player who was known to kneel down during the US national anthem when it was being played after the game is over to protest against racial injustice. And what did the tagline say? Believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything. Believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything. Absolutely story-driven. The message was 100% story-driven. This was not about the shoes. It was not about the features of the shoes, nor was it about the performance data. It was about values, about believing in one's conviction, even when it's very unpopular. What does the ad show visually? Young athletes defying odds. A wrestler born without legs. A refugee soccer player. A blind runner. Serena Williams, the black lady who won over the courts. LeBron James. All of them are heroes of resilience who have fought the world to stand where they are. Kaepernick's voiceover ties them together. Don't ask if your dreams are crazy. Ask if they're crazy enough. The product barely appears. It doesn't appear at all till the end. But the emotion carries the message of Nike. What was the tone? What was the persuasion strategy? Inspirational and totally value-driven. It evoked pride, empathy, rebellion, and belief. Nike does not argue why its shoes are best. It tells a story of courage that mirrors its brand identity. What was the marketing impact? Sales. Online sales jumped 31% in the following week. Social media, the video hit over 80 million views within days. And what happened to the brand's equity? Nike's brand won over the Gen Zs and the millennials. What was the cultural impact? The campaign polarized audiences. Some burned their shoes against Nike, but Nike became the symbol of purpose-driven branding. The entire campaign had a purpose, and Nike stood for that. What should be our key takeaway? The Dream Crazy pitch exemplifies story-driven persuasion. It just talks about story-driven persuasion. People had to buy the shoes. It showed emotion, identity, shared value, which went above the product talk. It built not just awareness about the brand, including tribal loyalty, but it turned customers into believers. Now let's take a comparative understanding between these two stories. Data versus story. Right? What was Apple? Apple said Mac versus PC. What did Nike say? Nike said dream crazy. What were their approach? Apple said data-driven, rational storytelling. What did Nike say? Emotional storytelling. Apple focused on the product, superiority of the product and the specifications. Nike talked about human values and resilience. What was the emotional depth of the ads? Mac, moderate. There was humor, there was wit. But Nike, wow, it had belief, it had pride, it had empathy. So where did the brain actually work? In the Mac ads, it worked at the neocortex. Our neocortex, remember from our videos, neocortex works where logic works. But Nike worked at the limbic system, where our emotions worked. So what was the outcome? For Mac, it convinced the buyers that Mac is better than a PC. Whereas in Nike, it inspired believers. So what happened as a brand legacy? Mac came out as a very clever, smart, efficient, brave, bold, purpose-led computer. Its tagline said, I am a Mac. I am a PC. Believe in something. So it said, I am a Mac. Dear friends, if logic makes people think, emotion makes people act, which one would you bet your brand on? Do you have any idea? Pick up on any Indian brand. Tata, Tea, Swiggy, Fevicol, Amul, Bata, anything. And you can design a data-driven pitch with any one of the brands, with facts, numbers, performance, claims, or whatever. And in the other one, do a story-driven pitch. Have an emotion, give a narrative, give life to the characters. Then let's have a talk in the discussion room. Mail it to us. We would love to see what you are thinking about data-driven approach and a story-driven approach. Or is it data wrapped in a story-driven approach? Take your call. Send us your stories and I will look into it.